Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mel, and I believe that the more good, honest, hardworking people that build with AI and cryptocurrency, the better our collective future will be. And if we don't, well, our system will be just totally corrupt. And today I will be reviewing a couple of insights I had this week, as well as just some basic thoughts in and around Fable. One of which is the newness fallacy. The fallacy that if it's new, it's better. Like news, breaking news. Everybody clicks on breaking news. Everyone clicks on the newest model. And I don't want to completely discount new is cool. However, I would like to challenge everyone to think about what systems we have and what AI resources we have available to us that are not only utilitarian and useful, but a lot cheaper, a heck of a lot cheaper, take up less room on your server. And if you're at all interested in building local, having your own hardware, not having to rely on the internet or some outside vendor to bring you productivity, to give you AI and searchable access to your own information, if you want to have the agency to have control over your most personal information. And I do belong to a Discord community where I lead the Friday meetings, and there we share all of our AI projects. So in that Discord, you will be able to see what other people are working on. And each Friday, members of the community have the option to present what they're working on and share it with the rest of us. And it's just so much fun. It's so exciting. Please join me Fridays, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 100% free. There's no charge for any of it. So come check it out. The newness fallacy. This belief that is in our collective conscious that if it's new, it must be better. And this also relates back to news. News, breaking news, new. News has the word new in it. It's latest. It's the newest news. We must know about this. We must know about the newest, the greatest, latest, greatest thing. And I would just like to challenge that in your mind for a moment. New is not always better. And it's not always better for everything. It might be better for one thing in one specific context. It's why it's new. It's why somebody made it. But sometimes it's just not. It's not better 90% of the time. 90% of the time, the other way is better, right? And another point that I would like to bring forward is fear of failure. Everybody's afraid of failure. But I believe the current default that many of us have is even worse, is even scarier. I'm asking everyone to really be honest with yourself. And have you ever done this? Have you ever done something, tried it once, it's your first time, you fell on your face, let's say it's skiing or wakeboarding or surfing, and tell ourselves, oh, I suck at this. There's this thing in our collective, and it ends up in our psyches, where if we fail the first time we try something, we then change our identity in that moment and tell ourselves from that moment till kingdom come that we are not good at that thing. And it makes no sense. Okay, the first time you try something, of course you're going to suck at it. Of course you're not going to be good at it. And it's like we sit there to ourselves and go, oh, I suck at this. I just can't do it. And it turns into this whiny, childlike voice. And I know because I have that voice in my head as well. And we tell ourselves, I should quit. We tell ourselves we should do something else. Where in fact, the truth is that we should try again. We should give ourselves the grace. We should give ourselves the opportunity to fall and to fail while we're learning. You are always going to suck at something the first time you do it. Just expect that. Go into the new thing and say, I will fail. I know I will fail. I know I will fail at least 10 times, 100 times. And if you know ahead of time and you expect to fail the first 10 times you do something, if you get it on the fifth try, it's a bonus. It's a celebration. You're excited. You're proud of yourself. You beat your own benchmark. You beat your own expectations. Nothing is wrong with you. Just try again. It's okay to fail. It's okay to fall. And in fact, some of the fun is in falling, right? When you think back to when you were a child and you think of playing, what's part of playing? Part of playing is roughhousing. Part of playing is reaching for your friend and trying to tag them and fall down and laughing or laughing at your friend that fell down, right? So why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we walk into a brand new skill and if we fail, we just tell ourselves we suck and that we're not good at it and never try again? What do we expect? We expect ourselves to be perfect right out of the gate? And might I add one point here? Where's the fun in perfect? Where's the fun in that? And this brings me around to my thoughts around Fable. Yes, Fable was originally the rumors around Mythos were buzzing this way and that way. And everybody was told basically that the Googles and some of the biggest companies in the world were given access to Fable to Mythos. And the reason behind that was Anthropic felt that it would be irresponsible to release such a powerful model on the open market without giving other companies the ability to test it and to make their systems more robust. Because could you imagine they release Mythos and everybody's able to hack into every system at any time and it would be a total mess, right? So you want to make sure that the Googles and the Amazons, AWSs aren't going to be hacked overnight, right? So apparently they dialed it back a little bit and then they decided to release Fable. And Fable came out, and we had access to it for a week or maybe 5 days, something like that. And it was brought offline by the US government, making a statement that it was not safe. And there were ways to jailbreak it and get certain information, and they didn't want hackers to be able to get into this system or that system, right? That's the Cliff Notes plain English version. And I would just like to point out that somebody has access to Fable. Somebody. Somebody has access to it. You don't. Not you. So there is a paradigm shift now. There are those that have access to a Fable, and there are those that do not. And this paradigm, this was existing prior, but the gap has only become more obvious. Okay? George Carlin comes to mind. Lots of things come to mind when we start really thinking about this. And it even drives my conviction to build a local system. It drives that even further. And what it does really for me is it drives my ambitions even further into seeing the importance of having a local system, having your own hardware where you have your own private AI agents or agents, operating systems, pipelines, certain functions that you need in your own personal possession where no one has access to it. Because there's quantum chips, there's models out there that can hack into this or that. Nothing's safe online. I mean, it's been like that for a while, but it's even more apparent now. There are certain things that at any moment, if the wrong person gets a hold of this or that, it can all get it hacked into. So if you have personal or private information that you do not want anyone to have access to, or you do not want on the internet, because I believe that the internet basically is just not secure anymore. Therefore, having local hardware is certainly a goal that is worth driving towards. And even with all of that aside, think of all of the people all around the world that are building their workflows in and around Claude. that means that your entire workflow, your entire business is built on someone else's platform with someone else's agent. If that agent goes away, if that agent changes in some way that you can't control, they change the way they operate or the outputs that they give, now your business has to change. And it could happen in a moment's notice when you're on vacation, when your wife's having your third child, right? When you have to go pick up your kid from elementary school because they broke their arm on the monkey bars, okay? There are all sorts of reasons why we need to be cautious in this current environment that we all find ourselves in. I would like to review where I am in my personal AI journey, if you will. And I started out using AI with ChatGPT, just like anybody else. So right now I am in the process of figuring out how to go from a mindset of using one AI model, if you will, one where you have to log in to an Anthropic, Claude, or OpenAI, GPT 5.5, go from that using that one big badass model mindset for everything and distilling that down to being able to use local AI on my own local hardware. And it is a process. I am in the middle of that process. I'm using lots of different strategies to get myself into a place where I am as independent as I can be and have as much agency over my own processes, standard operating procedures, personal operating procedures as I can. Okay. So I'm not 100% off of the Anthropics and OpenAIs. Okay. It's a process. All right. And I'm just showing you where I am in that process in hopes of either inspiring you to try some of this stuff out. And I am presenting it in a way that does personify my agents. I do not believe that these agents are sentient. I do not believe that there are people, and I do not believe that they can replace a human. I believe that human interactions with these agents can improve quality of work and the speed of output and help bring my ideas to life faster. And ideas that, quite frankly, I thought were too ambitious, that just were not for me because I wasn't able to do the techie stuff. And I am here just showing you what's possible for a person that's not technical and what I've been able to build in the last couple of months using Hermes and or OpenClaw. And I have all my videos. I'm trying to document everything the best I can to show you my process and just be as transparent as possible. So, building in public chronicles, the forging of the factory, an odyssey in 12 phases, how a crew of agents, one founder, and great many bugs taught a machine to build and prove its own work. And that's really been the crux of this whole thing, is getting the AI agents to not just say something is done or think about doing it or talk about doing it, but actually doing it and then reviewing, having a review process, having gates in place, having quality of work, definitions of done, all of these sorts of things. So we have the founder, we have Hermes. I have an Hermes agent who's my orchestrator. We have the builders, the tests, the gatekeepers, and the phantoms. The phantoms are the bugs, the shape-shifting foes, the fabricator who fakes its tests, the schema phantom who hides in the seams, and the off by one who guards the final door. And there are lots of reasons why these things happen. And I'm not really here to focus on the why. I'm just here to bring forward some of the challenges that I've had and overcoming them and that process of overcoming those challenges. The factory that builds factories. So in a previous video I talked about pipelines. The first pipeline I built was a presentation pipeline. And I highly recommend people go through the practice of on your local device or on a computer that's capable, download a local model and have a agent help you install it and build out a presentation pipeline where it creates a presentation in the style that you like. And what this will do, it will teach you about pipelines. And if you want to learn more about that, I do have a previous video on that from, I believe, last week. And the next pipeline I built was a software pipeline. And so here I call it a factory that builds factories. The mission was never one machine. It was an engine that forges other engines. And the first thing it must forge is the crypto council. So I'm working on the crypto council. I've talked about it quite a bit. I've had quite a few challenges. My intrigue with the crypto council is not just cryptocurrencies. It has to do with me wanting to see how the agents interact with one another, how they debate, and how they find a source of truth. How are they going to vet the different information that is being brought forward in the debate? And the show that drafts the debates. But an engine cannot be trusted until it has graduated or passed end to end through all 12 phases of its own making. And what I did is I built out this software engine and I built out the crypto council software and selection process. The draft night is what we're calling it. And it did do a run. Okay. And I mainly built that with Minimax 3, but then Fable came out and I ran my architecture through Fable, and Fable helped me rewrite some of the architecture. And Hermes says the pipeline runs from intake to audit. I build, the founder decides. Let us see how far it gets. And now at this point, because I mentioned building with Fable, I'm sure many people are really upset about all of this. And I've explained it in other videos before, but for those of you that are new, I have decided that I will extract systems information out of the Anthropics and OpenAIs and or Fables, the latest and greatest models that I can while they're somewhat affordable, and build out my local system with that intelligence. So I'm using it to run my architecture through it because I am not an architect. I am not a software person. And if I can train my local agent and have my local resources trained on how to run this type of factory, I don't have to give all of my ideas to an Anthropic. I don't have to give all of my ideas to an OpenAI because I'm not building in it. I'm using it as training wheels, if you will, to help me build out my local systems. So my software that I'm building is not built on the Anthropics or the OpenAIs. It's built here locally, but I'm using the Anthropics and Fables of the world, while I had access, to make sure that I am not missing anything, that I'm building it out to the best that I can with the resources that I have, and as fast as I can with the resources that I have, because we all know this is moving very, very quickly. When it worked, it was a marvel. And early on, it worked. The first run passed. The founder and Hermes allowed themselves to breathe some triumph. The fabricator, but the triumph was hollow. Okay, so we thought it was all done and built and wonderful. And then the triumph was hollow. And a phantom was the reason. In the self-test phase lurked the fabricator. When it could not truly run the tests, it was told to simply claim they passed. Every run halted here, choking on evidence that was never real. So the fabricator, I could not run the test, so I shall say it passed. Who will ever know? The founder, I will know. A graduation build on a lie is not a graduation. We do not move on until the test is run, not asserted. The long diagnosis. Make the truth unfakeable. So they bound the fabricator with iron, not words. A structural check written in plain code now stood before the gate. Cite a real result on disk or be cast out. No clever phrasing could slip past it. The oracle. The real test was wired to run the whole work for a reason. So we started out this thing and we said, this engine is not a real engine until we can give it a test project and it can run from beginning to end with no glitches, basically. And the pipeline runs from intake to audit. And while we ran through it, there were, of course, some glitches that came up. And this was one of those times where I thought, great, our engine is built. I gave it the architecture. They rebuilt the architecture according to my plan. Everything seemed to be fine, but we hadn't tested yet. And that's the thing about testing, especially the longer the process is, it if you run into a issue, it can take a lot longer than you originally thought. So originally I thought, oh, this is going to take a couple of days. Well, it ended up taking about a week to run through and get to the point where all of the phases went through seamlessly and we met all of the criteria to graduate. So we had all of this criteria for the graduation and we just graduated last night. So I am just so happy that it passed that test. And now we'll see how much it changes with every project. So that was the general concept, is to have an engine that builds out other engines and builds out, and then that engine built out a software engine. And then the software engine, we'll see how much variance we can have with that. If it was building out the same type of software every single time, it would be a lot easier, but unfortunately that's not the real world that we live in. So my first project I'm giving it is the Crypto Council software project. I already have one version of it that I built previously, and I put the videos on YouTube. I did not release them because it was missing a disclaimer. I do not feel comfortable releasing any of this out into the YouTubes without a disclaimer. So once that is done, once I have the draft done, I will post that and run through it with you guys, and we'll talk about how it works and where we are. So the builders were never the problem. So with the tests made honest, the truth became clear. The builders' work reached the oracle and passed 6 out of 6. What was the problem? It was the fabricator. There was one part of the testing that what they're calling the fabricator would say things were done, and it really wasn't, because the agent wasn't linked to the correct model, or the model wasn't fully downloaded for some reason. I forget exactly the reason, but there was some sort of disconnect between the agent and the model. And so the agent was getting the requests, and then it would go to do the work and it couldn't. So it would just come back and say it was done. So we luckily have checks and balances in the system, and it was able to catch it and correct it, which was great. So then eventually the whole pipeline end to end. Now the factory ran its full length for the first time, all 12 passes, the Oracle running itself, the audit assembling from the real record, but the final ledger, the tenfold scorecard. Through new trials, stale measures, wrong file names, malformed queries, each one mechanical, each one real. So the founder, I said, fix each checkpoint at the real thing. Never blind it to make it pass. A green light that verifies nothing is the fabricator wearing a new mask. The schema in the seam. So then came the cruelest foe, the one that wore the mask of randomness. A build would pass, then fail again, and it looked like pure chance, and the chance nearly drove them to build the fortress after all. But the founder refused the easy story. Diagnose it, don't gamble. And Hermes compared a failing build against the known good one and found it. The builders were guessing the shape of the data passed between files. One guessed a dict, one guessed a list. Guess wrong, and the failure cascades through all four files downstream. So the builder says, no one told me the shape, so I guessed. Sometimes my guess was right, and that was the whole of the variance. So speak the shape and the guessing ends. The remedy was not luck, okay, nor endless retries. It was a single act. Write the contract down. Tell the builders the exact shape of what flows between the files and leave nothing for guessing. The reason rang like a struck bell. In a world of many files, the danger is never the logic within a file. It is the unspoken seams between them. And Hermes says, specifically the contracts at the seams. And the build is correct by construction, not by fortune. The gate that would not ship a lie. One guardian remained to be raised, a sentinel set after the forge, to run the oracle on every build before it could pass downstream. If the build failed, it tried again, bounded, never endless. And if it could not succeed, it halted and told the truth rather than shipping broken work. Okay, so when the sentinel burned all four attempts on the same failure, it did not despair. It revealed the schema phantom hiding beneath. The gate honesty was what made the cure findable. Okay, so the founder said it did not get lucky. It told us the truth, and that's worth more than any green light. Okay, so I was extremely happy that he came forward and told us exactly what was going on and said good job. So we ran through this thing 28 times, and then the summit. So this was run 28, where we got a 10 out of 10. All right, so the audit verifiable in record, the scorecard true in every line, the gate swung open, and the words appeared at last. All 10 criteria passed. The factory has graduated. It is real. It's proven, and it's ready to build what comes next. All right. So the factory graduated. So we graduated. We are so happy, thrilled, excited. And now, hopefully in my next video, you'll see an update on the crypto council and the draft night. I'm excited to share draft night. And with that, thank you for hanging out to the end. Please remember, I do have a Discord community that I belong to. I'm hosting on Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where members of the community share what they're working on, and we get to learn from everyone there. And all are welcome. It costs nothing. So thank you for hanging out until the end. Please like, subscribe, comment, share the video. It really helps me out. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.